Well, the 40th edition of Sunshine Rally of Children with Special Needs will be held tomorrow. And why is it being put together? Well, it's a special day for the physically and mentally challenged children from both within and around Nairobi. And it's to provide a day of entertainment, food and fun to as many children that are actually physically and mentally challenged. This is being put together by a section of Rotarians, as they call themselves, from parts of the country. And with me in studio to have more of this conversation and just delve deeper into that world of special needs children, with me in studio is Saum Siraj. She's chairperson Rotary Sunshine Rally, and we have Dr. I'll start with the first one, Dr. John. Dr. John Onala, who is a consultant, developmental disabilities, psycho-educational assessment, and also practitioner, biocellular analysis. And next to him is Sylvia Moraa, and she's a single mother to two special needs children, and also the PR chair at the Rotary Sunshine Rally. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'll start with you, Saum. Why is it so important to have this event tomorrow?
Well, first of all, it's important to have this event tomorrow because we need to recognize that we have differently abled children in our society and that they're just like the rest. So we are just trying to bring in awareness that they exist and it's okay to have them, and it's okay, we need to love them, show them that they are just part of the community like the rest of us. Yes.
You've been doing this for 40 years.
Yes.
I mean, the question here would be, what have you seen as an impact to at least recognizing that they exist and just loving on them?
Well, just to take you back to the history, it started in 1979 by the Manu Chandaria Foundation, courtesy of Dr. Manu Chandaria, in memory of his brother who had hearing problems. So he started this event just to bring a few kids together, give them a fun day of just have fun. He didn't have much in mind. Then eventually Rotary clubs in Nairobi picked it up, and 40 years later, here we are. But having done that for 39 years, this is the 4th year, we've seen a lot of differences. For starters, we see most of these kids that we have interacted with have become more confident in their lives. We have some of them who are actually like members of parliament, leaders out there, and they will tell you it's Sunshine Rally that made me get that self-esteem and feel like being disabled is not an inability to be something big in my life. Beyond that, it gives Rotarians an opportunity to identify with some of the schools and take them up as projects after the event. Because when you interact with them, the teachers, the caregivers, and the principals who come on the ground, we get to know more about the challenges that they are facing. Like, oh, we need additional wheelchairs. So you'll find a club that takes it up and gives them the wheelchairs or walking aids or whatever it is. And best of all is just more people become aware of the special needs in our society. They appreciate the people who take care of them every day because it's not easy. And for those who come with their kids, have been coming with their children to the event over the years, say their children are now different because they realize we are more privileged, but we should not take it for granted. And also they accept these children, as opposed to normally when Sylvia will talk about it, that when the kids go out to play, sometimes the other kids leave. Yeah, so that has changed over the years.
All right, fantastic. And I'm glad that you reeled in Sylvia into this because, again, you're a single mother to two special needs. I mean, the upkeep and taking care of those children is not a walk in the park, but you've been doing this. So let's start with the fact that the two kids have special needs. What kind of special needs are we talking about?
They're both on the autistic spectrum. So we normally have either the high functioning or the low functioning in the spectrum. So I have been privileged to be a mother of both ends. So you experience it differently. So you have this child who's almost like a genius, but then their normal functional things are a bit of a challenge for them. Like the way a kid would be talking. My second born spoke after 5 years. That's the first time he said mom. The other one spoke after 3 years, and because they're close to each other, it is very daunting. Actually, they practically look like twins. Yes, but it's like you said, it's not a walk in the park at all. First of all, just the medical expenses that you have to handle is very wanting. Getting a school is very hard. Some teachers will just say, okay, we'll take them all because we are encouraged to put them in a normal school. But in time you realize a normal school will not work because they really need attention. Like the level of attention that they need is very high. There is a point in time they accepted the child. 1 week into it, I'm told we need an extra nanny. I'm like, but you said you can handle it, you know? And then at the end of a term, you find that your child is being judged like the other children, which is something that is very difficult. Because you cannot judge a fish to climb a tree like a monkey. Of course, it's not going to be that. And sometimes it's very discouraging. Then we have stigma. Like people really discriminate against special needs kids because they get developmental challenges in tow with whatever else they have to deal with. So you find that like if it's in the playground, because children don't understand why this child is like this, they tend to separate themselves from them. Which I think when they're young, it's more painful to a parent than it is to the child.
Yes.
Because the child is innocent, they don't understand what is going on, and you'll always find them like, okay, these guys are walking away from me, I'll still follow them. So they take it like a game. But for you as an adult, you know exactly what is going on, and it is quite painful, to say the least.
Okay, you've touched on an array of issues that affect caregivers to special needs children, and we'll delve into them step by step. Now, let me bring in Daktari. Your definition of a child with developmental and learning needs is any child with deviation in physical, mental, behavioral, and neurological development is somebody you need to pay attention to.
Right.
Okay, now break down this for us. For example, she has children that have autism. So how do you now break down the rest of them? Because these are 3 distinct categories.
Right. When generally we look at disabilities, we are looking at those ones who are deviating from the normal. So when we look at special needs, sometimes even those ones who are extremely intelligent, who are significantly above average, are considered special because they don't fit in the mainstream curriculum.
So you're saying if I'm too smart,
Yeah, yes. Special.
I am special?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you not fit in. You share jokes that people don't understand. You wonder why people don't understand what you're talking about. So you don't fit in. So you need special attention.
Okay.
And if you are way below the bracket, again, you need special attention because you find it difficult to understand quite a number of things that most people understand. You don't walk like them, you don't eat like them, you don't talk like them, so you're different. So anybody who is outside what we call the normal bracket requires special attention. And usually what happens from early years is that if we look at developmental milestones, if a child's milestones tend to delay, then we talk of red flags. You need to start talking to your doctors, you need to seek help from therapists, because let's say your child is 2 years and is not yet saying a word, is not walking. The child is now 3 years, is not toilet trained. The child is 5 years, still not walking like the other children, then you need to seek help.
Okay, now you're talking about 5 years. Let me just jump in as a mother. I'll now put in the, I'll put on the hat of a mother and ask. There are children that, you know, they achieve their milestones differently. You know, they will tell you, don't worry, boys take their time, girls are faster. So at what point are you supposed to now sit up and probably pay attention as opposed to waiting when they're 5 years and a lot more would have been curtailed?
Allow me to go a little bit earlier than that, before birth.
Yes.
If you had, you're expecting and probably you're going through a difficult time, maybe emotionally, health-wise, you are not gaining enough weight, or maybe you are sick during your pregnancy, then you say you are at risk of having a child with difficulties, the maternal condition. And then we also look at factors that surround birth. So if a mother, for instance, is emotionally unstable, is sick, is constantly on medication, and you're expecting, then you say your child will require some kind of early intervention. So when we look at 2 aspects of early intervention, we look at preventative early intervention, a child who is born at risk. Whether the child has a condition or no condition, that child needs early intervention. Yeah, so if a child didn't cry at birth, the child was underweight, the child was born premature, the child had some maybe jaundice, all those risk factors that you have to look at. And then when you start breastfeeding and the child is not breastfeeding well, the child is crying too much. You know, all children will cry.
Yeah, when they're born, all they
But
do is
there are
cry.
there are those ones who will cry. Usually we talk of 6 hours. So if your child is crying more than 6 hours, then we say there could be a problem that need to be addressed. You need to see a pediatrician in early years. If your child is not eating well, is not breastfeeding well, there's a problem. You need to see a pediatrician. If your child is constantly suffering from ear infection problems, let's talk of ENT problems, then you need to see a pediatrician. So by the time the child is about 6 months, 8 months, and your child is not crawling, you need to be worried. So when children turn 1 year, most children will be holding things here and there and trying to get up. If your child is not there, you need to seek for a second opinion. Even if your doctor says children are different,
Yes.
Yeah, no, always seek second opinion. I did a research sometimes ago on mothers' perception on early intervention, and I interviewed a significant number of mothers, and it came out that over 75% of mothers' instinct is right. Yeah, so when you think there's a problem with my child, even if people say, no, you're just worried, no, seek second opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always good to seek second opinion. And then if now, let's say your child is 15 months, it's not walking, you need to see an occupational therapist straight away. Your child is approaching 2 years, it's not talking, you need to see a speech therapist. If there's none, see a special needs teacher somewhere. Or just see a pediatrician in the hospital. Sometimes they'll tell you, no, you're just worried for nothing. No, seek second opinion. Because,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so your
Right.
instinct is always right as a mother
To a
or a
great
parent.
extent.
Okay, Saum, as much as you have this fun days where people come with their children with special needs and those that are also in homes have a good time, I think it's also prudent to have a sensitization campaign of sorts so people understand that these are the ones that have come out. There's some that are living with us and we have no idea what they're dealing with, or some are even hidden, right?
Yeah.
What we do, we encourage every year. We encourage those who deal with them. You know, like caregivers. Most caregivers are aware because these schools are usually based in communities. Like you'll find one, say there's St. Peter's in around between Kangemi and Loresho area. Then you'll find others. There are so many schools in Jogoo. We have many schools in Thika and Machakos area. So they know. And we usually tell them to, if they feel we can intervene in bringing out these kids to attend school so that they can get the kind of care they need, they can tell us. And over the years, what we have seen is that the numbers have increased, even in attendance. We even have parents whose children are not in any of the schools that we've invited, but they are coming to be there. They occasionally they will look a bit uncomfortable, but once they are in there, they blend in and they're happy. And we've had cases where that the teachers will tell us we had more kids being registered in our schools. So what has happened, like last year, we only had about 5,400. This year we have 7,000 coming for the event. I look forward to maybe having 10,000 next year. And then our bigger picture is to have it running across the country. Yeah, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great progress.
Yeah.
Now, there's comfort in numbers, as she's saying, and that's why we're seeing more and more numbers coming out and being part of this. But it starts with one child, with their mother and or father at home, trying to figure it out through life. At that point, Sylvia, saying that you've walked in these shoes, what are the greatest challenges for the child?
For the child themselves, there is fitting in. That's the greatest that they usually go about, and the frustration. My child until now doesn't know how to process emotion. He's called Andrew, the first one, the one who's on the lower functioning. So even the entire family gets roped into this because he can't speak, so we don't know what he wants. So he'll try to point out. In time he'll learn, like if I take you where I want, what I want, you will try and understand me. But then there came to a time when he's frustrated, it's emotional, like something's going on within him, but he doesn't know, how do I put this out? So it will come out as anger. So there was a time he would just come and like wipe out everything from the table. And you know, everyone is like, oh my God, what is going on with you? But even if you're talking, you don't know if he's processing it, is he understanding you? Because it's a nonverbal child, so he can't give you feedback. So that was very frustrating and hard as a family. So we had to come up with ways of how to understand exactly what it is. So the minute he takes you to, like, if I want water, then now you try and signal, like, okay, you want a glass. So you talk to him. You say, oh, you want a glass of water? This is water. Here you go. So that when he processes, it's not like that they don't understand, because the minute he started talking, and God is great, because he's not talking, but we figured out it's like he has a tape recorder in his head.
Yeah.
Everything we've been saying, the day he opened his mouth, was just coming out like this. We entered the car. He was singing every song in the car, and you're like,
amazing.
oh my God, where did that come from? You know? So, but these are those small things that people take for granted, like talking, walking. For us, it's like a party. Like today he said a new word, like, can you imagine? He processed that word and he knows it. And that acceptance of in school, because I tried putting him in a public school for a while, and then you find like the teachers don't support. Like I would really like that the schools could be taught, teachers should be taught, like if it's a special need, you need a certain kind of patience. You don't treat them harshly, because it also affects them. All right, it affects them. Like if you leave them, there was this time, like he's used to being neat. Everyone is neat. Everyone is smart. But then by the time they get trained to take themselves to the toilet, you know, they have to live with that discomfort. If you're in a school where they don't take care of that, they exclude themselves and put themselves in a corner, because they get that feeling. They know something is wrong, but I can't talk to you. I can't speak. So how do I say that this is going on? The same thing applies when you have nannies. If anything is going on in the house, you can never know. It took him being put in hospital for months and months before we could find out you have medicine in the house. We still have to go out and work. So you can try and monitor and balancing everything only to a certain point. When you realize this medication is not moving as fast as it should, but then by the time we realized it was too late, because if you don't give them medication, because on every day he takes like two different types of medication in the morning and in the evening. He was already unwell. We were in Aga Khan for like a whole month, in and out. They can't figure out what is the matter. But now you see, he can't tell you I'm in pain. He can't tell you this is what is going on. So it can really take a toll on you as a family.
Yeah,
and
definitely it can. And now I am informed my colleague Martin Moraa from Murang'a is now joining us, and he's also bringing in a perspective from that county. And just if you are just joining us, remember that those identified with disabilities amongst the children are intellectually challenged, physically and neurologically impaired, sensory impairment. We're talking about deaf, blind, or deaf-blind. And there's another word here, neurodevelopmental, Daktari? Okay. Challenges like autism, dyslexia, and ADHD. We'll talk more about that, but for now, let's cross over to my colleague Martin.
Yes, it's a good morning from Murang'a County, as you have said, Gladys. And we just want to talk to people about this matter that we're discussing, special education in our children. Now, I'm glad to be joined by the coordinator who is in charge of the special education in Murang'a County. I just want to get a sneak peek preview of what entails the education in this county. How far, how good have we gone? What are the challenges that that these children with special needs are facing? Are they being taken to the schools? Because this issue of children being told to stay at home is rife in these areas that we call mashinani. That is in the up countries, where children, where parents prefer locking children in the home rather than taking them to school. I just want to talk to the coordinator to tell me how far are we after the government introduced a program known as individual education program, which entails a teacher to a child with special needs. I won't take too much of your time, so I would just try to invite this lady, the good lady here, and I would wish you would start by introducing yourself and tell us how far or where are we in Murang'a, as Murang'a County, in terms of special education in our children with special needs.
Thank you so much. My name is Salis Mwangi. I'm in charge of special needs education in Murang'a County. And I want to talk a little bit about the far we have gone in special needs. This is a challenge area whereby the parents lack information on what kind of disability is their children having. and especially when we come to the intellectually challenged children. So we find parents living in denial, and therefore they don't bring their children for assessment. Because what we are supposed to do is to have children brought for assessment so that we can actually identify the need of this child, and then we can do placement and know the kind of a school that is good for that child. In Moranga, there is that lack of, understanding that when a child has special needs, it doesn't mean the end. So some parents don't want to be associated with that. They don't want to be told that their children have special needs. They even prefer taking them to regular schools. Regular schools means these schools where we don't have special units, so that the parent is not labored. So that laboring has made us not lose glory, but again made our work a little bit hard, convincing the parents that they have to bring the children for assessment so that you can do proper placement.
Sorry, carry on.
Because it is good placement that gives good education to the child. Whether a child is intellectually challenged, it would depend on which intellectual challenge is this child having. Is it autism? Is it mentally challenged? Is it dyslexia? So we shall know that. And after we know that, we are able to place that child in the right institution. Yes.
Now, so far, you have been doing assessment.
Yes.
Which are the most common cases in Moranga, and maybe where do you refer these kids to? Do you have those schools in Moranga?
Okay, thank you so much. The most rampant area is mentally handicapped, and also autism is coming up very hard. And we refer these children to the schools, especially in Moranga East. We have Donorion. It is a public school. It is in Gaturi Division. We also have Kiroguru Special School in Kadara, and we have Percy Davis in Moranga South. So these schools usually take our children, but they are not enough because the children are so many. So when you refer a parent to, for example, a parent is coming from Moranga Town, you tell him or her to take the child to Moranga South, Percy Davis, which is in Kabiti area, they will not agree to go. They say they don't have fare to take the children. So eventually you find the child is at home. But we are happy this time because of the 100% transition. No child is being left at home, whether with special needs or not. And that is why we are doing, even as we are going out, looking for them, even in schools, and doing data collection to know how many children were supposed to be in this special unit, how many have reported, how many have not reported. That one is assisting us. That directive of 100% transition, it has also affected the volume of the numbers coming in special needs.
Okay. There was this program that was by PIA that was introduced by the government. Has it enhanced enrollment in our special schools?
It has, but for a program to take root, there needs a lot of training from the stakeholders and even sensitization to the parents. So when this one is lacking, yes, we have it in paper, and we usually train our teachers, and they usually they will like it. But you see, there needs a more intensive training for the teachers, the stakeholders, the officers, so that we all can embrace special needs education and understand what it entails. Like now we have the CBC, which is competence-based curriculum. And in it, we have the IP program, the Individualized Education Program. These issues cannot be sorted out if we don't have training for stakeholders, the head teachers in those schools. They need to understand what this one is. The principals in secondary schools also need to know that the learners who are graduating from class 8 and they have intellectual challenges, they're joining their schools. Now, what are they doing to them? Are they putting them in the same class, teaching them the same methodology? Are they having IEPs for those learners in Form 1, in Form 2, Form 3, Form 4? So when they exit, what kind of learners are we exiting to the community after now Form 4? So the issue of IEP is something that needs training both in primary and in secondary.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, my last question is, there is always a free primary education to the normal schools. But when it comes to schools where children with special needs are taken, parents always pay a certain amount of money. And we have seen that this is discouraging many, because most of these children come from poor background. Maybe what are you trying to do to ensure that these parents take their children to school?
Yeah, that has been a problem, thank you very much, whereby we find when we want to take a child to a special school, there is a fee structure. And when the others are receiving bursaries, we thank those sub-counties that have taken upon themselves, the ministers, the mheshimiwas in those counties, who have taken upon themselves that when they are giving bursary to secondary, to university student, college, and even primary, they shall be giving to these children with special needs. But there are some where these children are not catered for. So you want to take a child to Georgetown, and the list is enormous. The school fees is high. So the parent declines, and they say they can't afford that money. So this is something that maybe the government needs to streamline, that if there is bursary for all, let it be for all children. That if I'm taking a child to Donorian down here, that child can also receive bursary, either from the CDs, what we call this one, from the Mheshimiwa's office, or even from the government. Then we also find that there is top-up that is given by the Ministry of Education to the learners in special schools and in special units. It is usually 2,300. That money may not be enough because it is for buying teaching and learning resources for those learners. So you find that you may go to a class and find that this child needs a wheelchair. This child needs assistive devices. That 2,300 cannot be enough to buy these things for them. So that's why you find some parents carrying children to school. Others are on diapers, especially those with spina bifida. We have one in our sub-county here. She has been rejected in almost all schools because she has to be on pampers every day. And the mother have to carry her. She doesn't have a wheelchair. She doesn't have, enough money to buy the pampers. So who will stay with such a child in class? And if the resources are enough, these are the things that we say, let us have them. So that this child, when she comes to school, she can be changed. And because we have house mothers, they can change. And especially those with spina bifida, those who are extremely CP, cerebral palsy, we need a lot of assistance for these children.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. As you have heard, we are talking to the coordinator in charge of special education in Moranga, and as you have heard, he's saying more resources are needed so that the children with special needs can be given the best care that they deserve. Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you, Martin Moraa, speaking to us from Moranga County. And clearly, as you can tell, this is not just a Nairobi issue. Every county carries its own burden. And the official there has been very categorical about the importance of giving support to these special needs children. Still with me in studio, Saum, Siraj, chairperson, Rotary Sunshine Rally, Sylvia Moraa, single mother to 2 special needs children and PR chair at the Rotary Sunshine Rally, and Dr. John Onala, who is a consultant development in and disabilities. Now, Daktari, she's touched on so many things that we will look into. So step by step, caregivers. Clearly, she's talked about a lot of ignorance amongst the caregivers themselves.
Yeah.
What are the important things to keep in mind when you're taking care of these children?
Right. So actually, even before you look at the caregivers, if you look at the general community, because the caregivers from the community, the mothers from the community. So I say the community is the problem, not the disability. Because we tend to come up with the rules and do's and don'ts that they must conform to certain things that ourselves we are struggling to conform with. So the disability is not an issue. The issue is the community that is not embracing them.
Okay, so now talking about special needs awareness, and Daktari, we'd left it at talking about caregivers, and you were saying it's not necessarily about the disabilities. It is people being aware of the fact.
Sure. Yeah, so it's the society. If you have a child with special needs today in Kenya, as the parent now, and let's look at the mother, you'd not know where to get information on how to take care of your child. You do not know where to take your child to school. You do not know which food to give your child. You do not know where to get the therapies that a child needs. So it's like being taken to Mount Kenya at the middle of the night and then blindfolded, then you're told to find your way down. And then you're told, no, in the way we have cheetahs, we have elephants, but try to get your way down. That's how it feels. It's like being in an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to understand you. Your family members, starting from the immediate family members, don't understand what you're going through. People will blame you in your church. You know, you go to church and you have this child who's running up and down and can't just sit still. The pastor will not be happy. You go shopping and this child is touching everything. Nobody is happy with you in the shopping or in the supermarket. They say this child is spoiled, and so they blame the mother. You can't use public transport. You know, this child is touching everybody. There's a child on the other side trying to eat a sweet, and this child wants that sweet. You know? So they'll say your child is spoiled.
You know, I see Moraa reacting to all that because that's her reality, you know.
Right.
Continue, Dr.
Yeah, just a few days ago, I was in a supermarket and I saw a boy running, and he pushed a shelf, and there were utensils in the shelf, and several of those ones got broken.
Yeah.
And people came, you know, the attendants and the shoppers, and they're all looking at the mother and shouting at her. And then the dad was like, no, I'll pay everything. No, my son has a condition, has a problem. But because he looks normal, nobody believes you. Yeah, it's just a spoiled child. You know, you don't know how to take care of your child. You know. So we need to deal with the society as a whole before even we look at the mother and the caregivers. But now coming home, the caregivers now and the parents, we look at the family unit, the father, the mother, the caregivers, and even the siblings need to have basic understanding on how to take care of that child. Because in most cases, children with special needs understand more than we'll ever imagine or we'll ever start thinking about. Sometimes we think that they do not understand when you're talking to them, that they do not understand so much. But they also know how to manipulate the environment for their advantage. Yeah, they know quite a number of things. But basic training on feeding, basic training on play, basic training and communication skills, social interaction would be quite helpful if the caregivers and the parents and even teachers know how to interact with them at their level. You know, the problem sometimes is that we want them to conform to our standards. But you see, the standards we have here and you want your child to conform to might be different with the standards in Turkana, might be different with the standards in China. So they're all different. So why do you want the child to conform? Why can't you try to get to the child's level and try to understand the child's need? What does the child need now? Why is he crying? Why is he not following rules? Why is he breaking things? He could be communicating something that you need to understand. Yeah, I'll give a typical example. So you have this child who is constantly knocking things. It's probably auditory sensitivity. He is craving certain sound. You want to get that sound. And then you are constantly telling him to stop. Or you are a teacher in class and you have this child who is constantly rocking. And then you tell him to stop rocking in class and sit still. And sometimes you tell him sit with silent hands. So the child sits like that. And the child sits with all his mental energy focused on sitting still. So he's not getting anything. You ask him a question and he's like, he's not even there. He's not getting anything. But suppose you allowed him to rock and learn as he's rocking, he'll understand more than when he's seated still.
Because the rocking soothes him?
Yes, and helps him to process more information.
Yeah.
And when he's at home and he's being naughty, jumping up and down, rolling, he's probably craving for something. Maybe he wants a deep pressure hug. You want you to hug him and press him hard. He's craving something. But then, you know, you get angry and then you tell him, you sit still. Or you lock him up in the room or take him out in the backyard. Because I read a research recently that indicated that about 16.5% of Kenyan children are locked in the backyard. 16% is a huge number.
Wow.
We are talking of hundreds of thousands of children who are not playing with other children. In your neighborhood, there could be so many children whom you do not know that exist. they're not somewhere.
Very well put, because if 7,000 children will be joining you tomorrow, that means they exist in the city, because this is just Nairobi County. So how many others are out there? Before we went to break, Dr. was talking about the importance of caregivers and society at large to understand not only the fact that special needs children exist, but also where they can get the help from and how they can help them in, you know, trying to be part and parcel of society. Now, when they come for the fun day tomorrow, what are other avenues that you follow up on to ensure that such information is passed on to society and caregivers?
We have some health professionals on site. We will have AR there doing deworming for the children. We'll have a medical checkup there doing BMI and sugar tests. And some of these health professionals also give other information regarding handling the differently able children in our society. We were hoping to work with an organization that is based in Nakuru. They specialize in training caregivers or people who take care of special needs children. Unfortunately, they were not able to make it this time, but we look forward to working with them. However, they have passed on the information that we need to have. This information we circulate on all our media channels, and we will have a help desk where somebody can get information in terms of schools. I come from Thika area. Where can I get a school for the blind, a school for the physically challenged, a school for the deaf? I come from Machakos area. Where can I get this kind of school? I come from Eastlands. Where can I get a special needs school? That information is there. And even as we go back to our homes, we continue with these conversations. And our interactions, like I had earlier on mentioned with the teachers, the caregivers, so to speak, it enables us to understand them better, understand their needs. And we take it a step further by visiting their schools. You know, within Rotary, we have many clubs. Like in Nairobi alone, we have 27 clubs with over 875 members. So within our clubs, we take up projects, and almost all clubs work with some of these schools, even within Thika and Machakos. So we take it upon ourselves, visit them, understand them better. And also we talk to some of the government officials who are policymakers, and we find out how can we help beyond just the fun day and creating awareness. Is there anything we can do together? We've had discussions. We were lucky for, I think about the last 2 years, we had Honorable Sankok, who has been in that for the longest time because he's a polio survivor. And he's there making noise about them. This time around, we have Honorable Tim Wanyonyi coming. And we know it will take us places. Beyond there, we are lucky we've had people from the government coming in and donating things, basic things like wheelchairs that we take for granted. I know it is 7,000 bob, but how many people can afford 7,000 bob for a wheelchair? So those are the kind of things we are pushing every day.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, back to you, Sylvia. The challenges, as we said, are immense, but one of the ones that stands out like a thorn in the flesh is the education system, in as far as taking care and taking in these children with special needs. You have mentioned earlier it's been difficult trying to get the teachers to understand your children. Now, to start with, this special needs school, is it that they're not enough for the children, or is it the teachers that are not enough? And also the fact that there should be a special needs unit in every school. How is that looking?
That is one, it's a parent's nightmare, just to be blunt. A special needs parent, that's a nightmare because, first of all, we have our doctors saying, try and put this child in a normal school. You take the child in a normal school, the teachers don't know what to do with them because they're not trained. So what the government can do can ensure, like in any school, even if we're trying to have integrated system where you have the special unit, but then they can slowly get into the normalcy of a regular school. But then if the teacher cannot handle this child the way they're supposed to be handled, it's useless. We've spoken about having a special unit. The government, yes, has put a special unit. Like we say, the autistic spectrum is very wide. If you put an extreme autistic child and a low functioning, like a high functioning and a low functioning, you're messing up because they pick habits, like the doctor mentioned. You find the kids who need that sensory banging. You find those who bang their head. You find the ones who pinch or hurt themselves. For us, it's weird, but then it's a neurological issue that they're trying to calm down and suppress, and they have different ways of explaining that. So in a classroom where you put all of those kids together, of course, you're not quite assisting, and the government has not come together with the health sector so that they both collaborate. If you're going to have occupational therapy, that's the health department. But then you find that in public schools, nothing like that happens. I was lucky enough to try and do a research out in UK. I just sat in my nephew's class assessment, IEP, like we're starting to adopt that. But the difference between what they do out there is, in that sitting, you will have the class teacher, the head teacher, the speech therapist, you will have also the occupational therapist. All of you are sitting in the same platform. They also have a social person who goes to the house and tries to see how does this child perform at home, so that they can tell you as a parent, okay, we're doing this in school, you're doing this at home, let's integrate. This is how you do it here, so that you have that continuity. Even as parents, we're not educated on how to handle them. I take them to school, they come back, maybe they try and say something or do something that they've learned, but I don't know how to process it, because it's like their world. You understand? It's what they learn in school, but I can't relate. So there is need of that concession between the health, the parent, and the school itself. We don't have enough schools, that's for sure. Government school, okay, they can. You see, the others are privileged to say it's free primary education. What do we have? All right. For me, other than just putting them in class, I need to take them for occupational therapy. Because when you put him in class and his muscles are not well formed, he can't do anything. If they cannot be given speech therapy so that they learn whatever it is that you're teaching them, and basic life skills. Remember, these kids, their education system is different. Their priority is not ABCD. Their priority is surviving on my own, being independent. So you have to teach this child, okay, if it's eating, day one, put the spoon inside, put it in your mouth. That's a class. That's how they learn. Day two is, okay, after you finish, this is a plate, take it in this place. Those are things that we take for granted as regular parents, that, oh, you will know, you will watch and learn. For them, it involves like the head tells the hand that we are doing this because of this. And it's not easy to process for them. That's like overload. So that's why they take longer. And for the primary schools, we have very few. We have KISA that's training the teachers, but and a few other institutions have started doing that. But we need to increase the number of teachers allocated to schools. If it comes to primary, just education in the private sector, trust me, the bills we get. That's why you find people would rather just leave their kids at home, because you're like, okay, government is giving me this, but it's not enough. So do I take that not enough, or do I leave him at home, or do I have to kill myself to make money to put him in a proper school? At the end of the day, we're trying to just give them a normal life and the best of everything that we can. But when you look at the financial implications, this is just education. I'll give you an example, like tuition only for a special needs child, the cheaper that I found was around 60,000.
A term?
Yes, we're talking about term. You've not paid for occupational therapy, you've not paid for speech, you've not paid for their food, you've not figured out how they're going to go to school, their uniform. How many people in our economy can deal with that?
Wow. Okay, Dr. clearly there is such a huge gap. Now, before we get to the expenses of it, we've got to say there has been an increase in the number of special education programs in the past compared to, you know, but we are only, it's a drop in the ocean, because about 2% of children with special needs currently are in school. So that means literally it's a drop in the ocean considering the numbers out there. So what else needs to be done going forward in as far as accommodating special needs?
So one of the things that the Ministry of Education is coming up with is inclusive education. But it's not being done in the right way. Inclusive education means that all children should be able to access the mainstream schools that are close to them, and then be supported in the schools. But what's happening right now is that we are championing inclusion, but we do not have resources, we do not have the personnel to work with the children. So the 2% of children who are in school, we have probably less than 200 schools in Kenya, looking at the whole country, looking at all the categories. We have a few who are actually 200 schools and units, about 200 thereabout.
Okay.
Yeah, schools and units.
Okay, when you say unit, you mean the special needs unit?
Units, yeah, in mainstream school, we have mainstream classes, and then we might have a unit on the side that caters for these children. Then we have the 16% who are hidden. You know, those ones, nobody knows about them.
Yeah.
And then now when we are talking about 2% being in school and 98 not in school, we are forgetting about the other ones who nobody has ever seen. Yeah, I don't know whether you get me. You know, there are those ones who nobody has ever seen, will be seen when the parent dies. Or if a social worker gets information that there's a child hidden somewhere, that's when now you see the police and the media, you know, and the social worker coming to get that child out. It's a significant number. So we need to start by creating awareness, training more teachers and employing them, because we still have a big number of teachers who are trained from public universities, from KISE and other middle-level colleges, but they're not employed.
Oh, Terry, we're talking about the current status in Kenya as far as special needs and education is concerned. And you were saying clearly the government needs to do a lot with only 2% of these children in school. And your earlier research says some categories of disabilities have totally been left out. You're talking about dyslexia, autism, only 5 programs, you said, gifted and talented children. I mean, those disabilities that you can't see, but they actually do exist.
Right. I think like people with dyslexia, most of them are in mainstream schools. And because you can't read, you can't write well, you have problem with spelling, and maybe you're struggling with mathematics, then you're taken as a fool. But you see, I do assessment. And for diagnosis for dyslexia to be made, you must have average to above average general intelligence. So sometimes this child is seated in class, is more intelligent than the class teacher, but because he can't read and write,
wow.
then you kick him out. And so there's no school for children with dyslexia. We have programs coming up, but in the private sector. But you can imagine a very creative child who can hardly get 10% in your test. Then you kick him out. But if only there were programs to help him learn reading, writing, spelling, or if we came up with assistive devices like the reading pen, or the speech recognition to type for the child, or use worksheets, the child will excel in school. People with autism look physically normal. And those ones who have speech, sometimes they even have advanced vocabulary. And because of that, still they don't fit in quite well. But if you look at them physically, they are handsome boys, beautiful girls, but they don't fit. So they're always left out. They don't fit in schools for the mentally handicapped. And they do not fit in the mainstream curriculum. So you are left somewhere there, where do I take my child? And then the ministry says inclusive education. The school do not understand what to do with this child. Then you have children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Those ones who are extremely hyperactive. They are constantly fidgeting, they are rocking, they are touching things, they are drawing in class, they are doodling with a pen, they are talking before the teacher finishes talking. You start asking a question they have already answered. No, they're problematic in the class. They don't fit in that class. They don't fit in schools for the children with intellectual disability. They're not blind. They're not physically handicapped. Where do you take them? So children with neurodevelopmental disabilities suffer more because you can hardly see what they're going through. And there's another category of auditory processing disorder or sensory processing. Those ones who will appear normal when everything looks okay, nobody's shouting and the class is calm and they're working. But the moment people start walking or talking and their movement in class, people are turning pages, then they shut down totally. They're not getting anything. Then you say, this child in kindergarten was very good, everything was okay. When he went to this school, things started going down, we've changed schools. But I know he's a very intelligent boy, maybe at home when we start talking, he knows more than I can ever imagine he knows. But he's not performing, and evaluation is not giving us anything. So we have that big category that is again left out of any kind of education in Kenya.
So that calls for special units, as you were saying?
We need to have 3 levels of inclusion. We have the mainstream or full inclusion, where children who can fit in the classroom should be allowed to fit in, and the teacher should be given training and resources to be able to support them in the classroom. We have those ones who should be in the unit, but they can still take certain subjects in the mainstream classes. So they will be in the unit maybe to teach them how to play with other children, to teach them dressing, toileting skills and the other areas. And maybe they're genius in mathematics, they're very good in sciences, let them pursue that, they'll become good doctors in the future. But then we also have another category who are functioning at relatively low level, and they need full-time special needs unit or special school, because maybe they're not walking, they're not talking, they can't see. So they need a lot of occupational therapy every day, they need physiotherapy, they need so many other things that will not be provided in the mainstream. So you need to have those 3 levels for these children to be included in education.
Okay, now to you, Saum, is there something that Rotarians probably have put together? Because it sounds like a lot of resources needs to go to this. And at times, you know, they say monkey see, monkey do. If you put something together that works, then maybe the government can latch on and continue with it. Have you tried these avenues?
Yes, we have. We have a way of working with individual schools, like say like Thika School for the Blind. So find a way of figuring out what do you need beyond the basics, because you know there's been technological advancements in regards to whatever aspect of our lives. So the government can catch up on that. Instead of laptop for the primary school, we can focus on these special needs guys. There's a lot of technological advancements for them. Some of them with the blind are just partially blind. It can be corrected. They don't need to be in that category. The ones with hearing problems are not completely deaf. That can be corrected with advancement in technology. That's where the government should be looking at those kind of things. And as Rotarians, we are people who come from different vocations. I do logistics, Sylvia does branding, we have doctors, we have engineers and things like that. So we are aware, like we do medical camps, so we call the Rotarian doctors within us and nurses and the likes to come and assist and give a hand. We can come up with policies within ourselves, and hopefully there are few Rotarians who are actually in government right now. We have some who are members of parliament, can push this policy for us. So yes, we are putting something together and looking forward to working with the government big time. Something that will make that big difference. We've done it through polio, working with the government, and we've been able to eliminate polio. Why not this? We are looking at cancer, but we are many. We can do a lot.
True, true. Now, speaking of the government, this falls squarely on them. We're talking about universal health care. We're talking about everybody being able to access health and their needs being met. But just listening to you, Sylvia, this has been daunting because the expenses of it, taking care of a child with special needs, very high. And also the fact that you might not be able to access this the people who are actually special, you know, take care of such, like Dr. Onala. I mean, how many of his, kind do exist to start with?
Actually, Dr. Onala is the one who did assessment for my children. The minute people hear something's wrong with your child, trust me, everything. This one says, this one says, this one says, or from the stigma of Merogwa, or there's a curse somewhere, have you? You know, it even brings us strife when you're trying to figure out what it is. So there is no sense of direction. Because first of all, when I first went and said, okay, something's the matter, my child is fidgeting, he's not cold, why is he shivering? I'm told it's a habit. How is it a habit? Like, you tell me it's a habit, it will die off. Had the doctor taken that step of finding out what exactly it is, I always say maybe something would be different. So in time, when he got to 2, that's when when you're told, okay, go see a neurologist. First of all, at that time, maybe if you did not pursue biology in depth, you'd be like, who? You know? Then now you start, it's upon you. It's not a way that you go to a hospital and like, okay, neurologist and so and so and so and so. So you figure it out. Then if you're, by luck or chance, someone else tells you, okay, you need to have him evaluated so that you know. So by this time, my child needs to go to school. That's the time you're telling me I need evaluation. I've already lost this number of years that we would have done something. So that education of first the doctors at hand, so that they know how to identify. When they identify very early, then that mental preparation as a parent, so you know, I have this to deal with. You know, you get mentally prepared emotionally, because after diagnosis, we shut down. You get into depression, first of all. Why me? Oh God, why did you think of giving me this burden? And you can't deal. So you don't even have the mental strength to start reaching out. Because first, how do you start explaining to people that this and this is going on? Where do I start? So we lack information and guidance. Okay, on that, as a Rotarian, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to put all this information together and put it on a site, that these are the neurologists we have in the country, these are the doctors, these are the public schools, these are the private schools, and with the different categories. If it's cerebral palsy, these are the people who are taking it. That's something, like you were saying, information we do not have. So that's a personal initiative I've opted to take after this now 9-year journey that it has been, because the frustration is too much. It is a lot, and then you can be placing a child in the wrong school, but you know, people are more monetary oriented. They just want to, like, yeah, I can enroll, but then they don't consider that step of, okay, there is evaluation, let's evaluate this child, then we know we are going to place them exactly in this place. I've tried to go to NH. When you complain that it's expensive, they say, oh, government has KNH. How long do you take to get an appointment in KNH? I tried that for like 3 months. Then I feel exposed, because I go to KNH, I'm sitting with the doctor, then there are like 20 students behind me, I'm discussing my child, and I'm like, okay, so who are they again? You know? So there is that privacy and that respect that also needs to be there as we're trying to make a difference. Yes, we don't mind being a sample, but at least inform me in advance. Like, here we're coming, it is subsidized because we're trying to educate other doctors, and they understand what is going on. But you just don't throw me in the deep end. If you try going to APDK, they have a program where you can get now cheaper physiotherapy and speech. You have to check in at 7, you know? And there is a long list, because that's the only place that person who sits in Ushago can afford. They've booked appointment, they've traveled all the way to just come for this like 1-hour session where it is a bit affordable. But then now we are encouraged as parents to go back and replicate. I'm not a specialist in massage, because you need a lot of massaging, you need the oils, so that at least their physical can also keep up and that their muscles can be normal functioning. But you see, that you're already telling me I take care of them. You add that, I have to go to work, I have other kids to take care of, and the greater family. I'm only one person, man.
Yeah, that's a lot
You
to
know?
carry. There really is a lot to carry. Daktari, when it comes to the expenses of it, NHIF, how does that look like? Insurance companies, do they help alleviate the burden?
In Kenya, it's different, totally different, because it's disability is not covered unless it's a disability that is caused by an accident. If you get a motor vehicle accident and you have spinal cord injury, then insurance will cover that. A few insurance are trying to chip in, like with speech therapy. I've had parents talking of maybe having had reimbursement for speech therapy sessions, but generally it's not covered. The expenses is real, because you need sometimes to think of special diet, which is expensive. You need to think of diet supplements, and maybe you need a long list of supplements to give your child. You need to have regular training. So if you talk of speech therapy, you are going for speech therapy once a week, and maybe it's 2,500 a session. But then if you come to me as a consultant in early intervention, then I'll tell you your child needs daily intervention. So it's not once a week. So that means you need training yourself for you to be able to do that at home. And then the other question is, when will I do it? Because I also have to work. So there's a big disconnect, and if the government could come in with resources and pay for certain things, and insurance, you see, national insurance, we are all contributing to that. But this group is about 10% of the general population. Why can't the 90% finance the 10%? Because we are all contributing. Why can't they just pay for that small bit? No, it's not significant if you look at it as a nation. But again, still in the issue of funding, if the government chips in and then there's proper management of the funds, because we've also heard of mismanagement of disability funds. Yeah, you probably add some of those now. So we need accountability. That's why I talked of the community being an issue, because we have someone who has been given money to pay fees for children with special needs, and then the money doesn't reach the school. And then when it comes to employment, these people still have talents. You know, we have the blind with great talents, we have the deaf, we have people with autism, we have people with different conditions. But because we are not seeing them being employed, then the parents lose hope on the way. So if you have 1,000 shillings to spend on fee, and you have 2 children, you have a gifted and talented child with autism, and you have an average child, typical, you're most likely going to take your average child to school and keep this gifted and talented at home, because you don't see anything positive in this other one.
Coming out of them.
Yes, and then you juggle with the little money you have, then you say, probably this one will be a housekeeper in future. Let me invest in this one and leave this one. So we also have priorities. But in overall, early intervention is much better, because you save more in future. If you can't afford to pay fee and you have some time, you can learn a few skills here and there and be able to work with your child from early years and do a lot of early years stimulation, help them to learn walking, help them learn speaking, toileting skills, activities of daily living, generally feeding themselves, personal hygiene, those basic skills, because that will increase the chances of social inclusion, to be included in the society, the church, to take them out for shopping, you know, to play with the other children. But if you just focus on how expensive it is, and you also how to make ends meet, and you have this child who is drooling, you know, there's saliva all over, and you want your child to go and play out with the other children will run away. You can think of this child drooling and has not had a bath and is not toilet trained, and want to give you a hug. The other children will not want that. But if those basic trainings are given in early years, then it increases the child's chances of social inclusion to be included.
Okay, Saum, when it comes to the Rotarians, do you ever cater for the really special cases where there's a need, they come from a very poor background, nothing much can be done? Are there cases that you've now taken up as Rotarians and just walked with them?
Yes, we have. We have literally, like, we've had a lady who came a couple of years ago, and she just heard about the event. So she showed up. And one of us who happened to interact with her took it upon themselves as a club, and made sure, because the child was not going to school, but I think the mother, luckily a young mother, single mother, she was curious, and she I guess through social media or whatever means, she got the information. So they took it up themselves and enrolled this child to a school, and also help with the medication, first evaluation of course, then enroll them to a school and medication. And we do that a lot. What I have seen is normally we help children go to mostly for the physically handicapped. Like getting sometimes a space even in like Thika School for the Blind can be a bit challenging. But we've helped. Because we make phone calls and say, no, this child, the nearest school to them is maybe in Machakos or wherever it is, and we find a way of getting them to that school, and then we support and follow through. Then also we've had cases whereby there are these small schools that are started in areas where there's exactly no school. So somebody like, say like Sylvia, who already has that experience, and she feels like, no, I need to do something about it. And you start a small institution. So we've helped grow these institutions.
And do we have such in the counties?
Yes.
In the Mashinani?
Yes, we have them. We have Rotarians doing that. Like right now, Rotary Club of Bahari Mombasa have partnered with APDK for children to go to evaluation as we speak right now. And that's courtesy of Rotarians from Mombasa. So those things we do. We don't just walk out of that field and then wait for next year again to plan another fun event.
Okay, so it goes beyond the fun day. Well, yes.
Okay, I'd like to add something on that. So, on the effect of the things that we do. If we go to just here nearby in Thika, we started a special needs school, the Rotary Club of Thika, and then they worked with the government institution for special needs. From a small class of 10, we are 200 starting the second section of it, and there is a waiting list. So the demand is there, but you see, as Rotarians, we can only do so much.
Yeah.
Remember, it is we come together and try and solve our own problems on the at the grassroots. So that is what the impact that we're trying to do. So that was the first one that we have done. We've seen the impact it has brought in Thika, because now we have, like, it's even gone to a boarding school, because the demand out there, when people hear that, okay, this is come closer to me, then the ones we say we do not know, the 68, that's how they come out. And that's how you find, other than doing it in Nairobi, we are also trying to diversify into all these other areas. And that's the only way we can be able to reach down to them.
Okay, now we've been talking about this fun day. Maybe now we can spotlight on it. Saum, let me start with you. The 40th edition of the Sunshine Rally of Children with Special Needs, a great day to have fun, but also create awareness on the same. Going forward, where do you look at this taking us?
We look at it being like a national event where we'll have everyone throughout the country and probably within the region, East African region. Let's have a similar event same day. Whatever number there are hundreds, thousands of children there. So we are going to devolve the event, because right now we are working with 5 counties, all of us coming to Nairobi. We have kids coming all the way from Nanyuki, all the way from Ukambani. But this can be devolved. So we want to work with the counties and see how best it can happen. And as far as I'm concerned, I've done this. This is my 6th year. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
We can do it, but we need more hands, and we need support from all sectors, from the healthcare, who normally come through for us. But what about the guys out there who are not in Nairobi? How can we assist them? So we are creating awareness through our other clubs in Bungoma, Kisumu, Mombasa, wherever it is, because we are like 87 clubs in the country.
Yeah.
So we can do it, and that's our biggest goal.
Okay,
Yes.
87 clubs, 47 counties, it is possible,
yes.
definitely. So, Sylvia, looking at the day ahead, what do we expect to see and what's going to be going on?
Tomorrow, as we speak right now, the rest of the team is at the Jamhuri Showground. We intend to feed the children, the entire 7,000 of them. Jalaram community has been so kind as to donate the food. So as Rotarians, we're supplementing with chapati. So we're having a chapati fest going on today at the Jamhuri Showground. So we had called on people to just come and roll those chapos.
So those are 7,000 chapatis.
7,000 chapatis,
wow.
yes.
Yeah.
But we split it in 2 sections.
Yeah.
So for the people on Thika Road, we are having a Ruiru Rehabilitation Center.
Yeah.
So we have a team there that is targeting 3,000, and we have the team in Jamhuri that's currently doing the 4,000. Apart from that, after that, we are still packing. Like we said, it is a fun day. It's not just about come run around. That is the great, because it's Sunshine Rally. It's a day for them to just go out, feel the sun. They're always like, class, take you home.
Yeah.
And I want to take you, I can take you out because
In
you'll be a
controlled
nuisance,
environments.
So this is the day we're just like, okay, Christmas is here, Valentine's is here, run as much as you want, all right? Yeah. So they run, and then they integrate with also other children, because that one child knows me and my classroom. You take them out and they're like, oh my God, we're 7,000 of us. So there is that part of unity, like, I'm not alone in this. And that for me, Rotary Sunshine Rally is very personal, because the first day I came as a parent, I was like, here I am thinking I'm dying alone, and you see another child with different issues, and you're like, this is where I belong. And I make sure all my kids come. Yeah, tuko wengi, 7,000 only, and we've not even scratched the surface. Apart from that, we'll be having entertainers come. We shall be having the medical camps. There'll be eye checks, then there'll be the biometrics being checked by medical checkups. We shall be having AR deworming all the 7,000 children. And we shall be having the Safari Rally Association, the motorsports, right? Yeah. So in the afternoon, after they eat, as they're digesting, do you remember those days of Safari Rally?
Yeah.
The way you would be like just watching to see the fun. We're bringing it to them on the ground.
That's excellent.
So what we're going to be having, they'll just take a seat, then we'll have the bikes, we'll be having the stunts being done. And my dear, you should see the excitement that comes when these kids see this thing. Because these are things that they dream about, but it's impossible. Because you want to tell me you have to think of all these things, then you're being told, take this child to just watch safari. You'll be like, what nonsense is that? You know. So we've tried to bring as much entertainment to them. They can't go for a concert. For the past 3 years, Nameless has always been there for them. Like he performs. This time we will be having Oponeke as our MC. We shall be having FBI dancer, Zangalewa, Kanda King. You remember that he was a kid, now he's a man. So he shall be there entertaining these kids. And trust you me, bouncing castles, face painting. We shall be having a school from Thika. Like we said, they're extremely talented. They usually make handcrafted items. So we give them the platform to showcase. Like disability is not inability. So you see the things that the pieces are beautiful. Trust me, by the end of the day, they're sold out. So come ready to just support and just be part of this wonderful day.
Fantastic. Dr. Onala, when you hear this happening, and it's happening often, and it should go to the counties, for you, the importance of it for this child?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I know some children are going to benefit, and the information is going to spread up in the village. And that awareness is what we're looking for. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to a situation where we'll have so many organizations coming up together. We have like the special education professionals, you know, those organizations that are working with children at the grassroots, coming together and doing the same kind of thing to create awareness. Yeah, so we are going to see significant change in the disability field.
All right. Thank you so much for your company this morning. Definitely a lot to be learned from when it comes to special needs awareness. Saum, Siraj, Chairperson, Rotary Sunshine Rally, Sylvia Moraa, single mother to two special needs children, and a PR chair at the Rotary Sunshine Rally, Dr. John Onala, who is a consultant to developmental disabilities and practitioner biocellular analysis. Again, thank you. Remember,